I found an unholy mermaid in the depths of a cursed ocean. What happened next is unimaginable. I never should have opened that door. It was painted bright blue, a vivid contrast against the decaying wood of the dock. It begged me to peek inside, but I felt a chill run down my spine as I reached for the handle. My usual routine was simple: cast my net, pull in the day's catch, and return home before sunset. But that night, something in the air felt different, heavy, like a storm was brewing beneath the waves. The moment I stepped through that door, darkness wrapped around me. The air was cold and damp, filled with the salty tang of the sea and something else, something sweet and rotten. Whispers danced around me, echoing off the walls. Shadows flickered in the corner of my eye, darting just out of sight. I stumbled deeper into the room, each step sending a jolt of dread through me. Then came the noise, a low, haunting melody that seemed to seep from the very walls. It entranced me, pulling me forward. I felt fingers of ice creep up my spine as I noticed a flash of iridescent scales disappearing behind a tattered curtain. My breath quickened. The tales I had dismissed as folklore crashed through my mind like thunder. The flickering light revealed a cracked mirror, barely reflecting my face. Instead, it showed something else. A glimpse of a figure, half in shadow. My heart raced. There was a feeling of being watched, a presence almost tangible in the air. I could hear the soft lapping of water, but the ocean was nowhere near. It echoed from within the very room I stood. Something brushed my leg. I jumped, panic clawing at my throat. I swiveled around, desperate for a glance at what lurked behind me, but all I saw was the curtain, gently swaying. Fear curled tight in my chest. The whispers grew louder, more frantic, urging me to look deeper, to uncover the truth. I could feel the weight of unseen eyes, hungry for my reaction. A crash shattered the silence. A glassy orb, no, a fisheye, rolled across the floor, reflecting fractured light. I wanted to scream, to run, but something kept me rooted. My legs trembled. The melody swelled, wrapping around me like a serpent. Was it calling me? Then, a flicker of movement caught my eye. A figure slipped from behind the curtain, her hair entwined with seaweed, an otherworldly glow emanating from her skin. My breath caught in my throat. She didn't just look like a mermaid, she looked like a nightmare. Her lips parted to utter something, but the sound was lost in the swell of the ocean's song. I was frozen, held captive by those eyes, deep and stormy. They flickered with a mix of sorrow and something darker, hunger. My instincts screamed at me to turn and flee, but there was nowhere to run. I was trapped, ensnared in a tale that felt far too real. And just as the shadows grew darker, the door slammed shut behind me. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air grew heavier, tinged with an electric charge as the door slammed, echoing like the finality of a judge's gavel. Panic surged through me as I turned to face the mermaid, her eyes boring into mine, filled with an ancient knowledge that made everything within me quiver. My pulse raced, the darkness feel like a living entity, wrapping around me tighter and tighter, as if trying to suffocate any remnants of courage. The obscured melody morphed into something more sinister, transforming into a chorus of haunting wails that emanated from the very walls. Each wail seemed to call out to me, wrapping around my limbs, urging me to succumb to the growing despair that clung to my thoughts. I wanted nothing more than to scream and hammer on the door, plead for it to open, but my voice vanished in the thick, oppressive air. The mermaid stepped closer, her movements graceful yet predatory, every inch of her glistening form alive with malice. Her lips curled into a smile, revealing rows of sharp, glistening teeth as she emerged from the shadows cast by the feeble flickering light. The stench of decay washed over me once again, mingling with the intoxicating sweet scent of brine and rot. Why do you linger here, anchorite of the land? Her voice seeped into my mind, its eerie resonance crawling through my bones. It tugged at something deep within me, a part one didn't even know existed. I just wanted to see, I stuttered, my resolve crumbling. See? She interrupted, the melodic timbre shifting into something guttural. See what? The beauty of despair. The song of the drowned. With a flick of her hand, the shadows erupted, swirling like a tempest around us, coalescing into haunting visions. Faces emerged from the dark, twisted in agonizing expressions, eyes hollowed and sorrowful. The water splashing behind them sounded as if the ocean itself wept with their cries. I staggered back, the horrific imagery seeping into my mind. Let me go, I pleaded, but it was too late. The mermaid's presence suffocated me, a grip stronger than iron. Feasts await those who listen, she whispered, stepping closer, her voice laced with gluttonous promises. Join us, or perish here alone with your fears. Her eyes bore deeper into my soul, and for a moment, I felt the pull of unspeakable depths, a cold embrace of the ocean's secrets, offering me oblivion. But the glinting shards of glass scattered across the floor shifted, reflecting the chaos swirling inside of me. I caught movement again from the corner of my eye, the curtain parted slightly, and a figure was hidden there, pale and ghostly. I glanced toward it, and my heart sank lower than the abyss. The sight of another woman appeared, eyes that mirrored the mermaid's, yet they were dim, lacking that vibrant light. She looked almost like a ghost of what once was. Her lips trembled, mouthing words I couldn't understand. I edged closer, the instinct to help battling against the urge to flee, but the mermaid's voice beckoned me, richer, more alluring. Why do you look for the lost when you have the chance to embrace eternity? The mermaid crooned, her voice seeping into my mind like venom. Forever in paradise, forever in despair, your choice. Just let go. As I stood there, torn between two worlds, the lost woman's hand shot out from the curtain's shadows, grasping at the air. Don't listen. Don't be fooled. Her voice, choked and ghostly, sent tremors through me, igniting a desperate flicker of clarity amidst the enchanting dread. Then suddenly, the glassy eye started to thrum, vibrating with an eerie intensity. The room trembled, waves crashing against unseen shores in rhythm with the growing pulse. The mermaid's expression changed, lines of frustration creasing her brow. No. You will stay. You will be ours. And just as I turned to run towards the fading figure behind the curtain, the floor beneath me buckled. The glass shards erupted into a flurry of jagged edges, lunging toward me like a pack of wolves, relentless and bloodthirsty. In that stomach-churning moment of terror, I lunged toward the door, but from behind, something wrapped around my ankle, dragging me back into the dark. A whispered mantra chanted, "Join us, join us." As I was pulled into the depths, the last thing I saw was the haunting smile of the mermaid overshadowed by the churning shadows, the echoes of lost souls coaxing me backward, all hope for escape slipping through my fingers like water. The tug of the unseen force intensified as it spiraled around my ankle, peeling away any fleeting thoughts of sanity. My heart raced with an animalistic desperation as I clawed the wooden floor, my fingertips scraping against the rough grain in a futile attempt to latch onto something solid. The room swirled with shadows, each flickering light only casting deeper darkness in the corners. The mermaid's laughter echoed, a cruel, melodic sound that intertwined with the wails of the anguished souls hovering just beyond my vision. It felt like a siren song laced with an undercurrent of malice, promising beauty while engulfing me in horror. "We are all waiting for you," she taunted, her voice weaving through the chaos, in the embrace of the depths. And then, the pale woman, this spectre who seemed to be caught between realms, gripped my wrist with unexpected strength. Her translucent skin felt cold against my flesh, a jarring contrast to the oppressive warmth of the room. "You have to fight. They thrive on despair, do not let them take you." Her voice trembled through the dissonance, a beacon struggling against the tide. The shadows writhed around us, their elongated fingers reaching, grasping, pulling at the very fabric of my being. I turned desperately back to the mermaid, who now loomed closer, her eyes burning with an insatiable hunger. She talks of hope, she sneered, of fighting, yet they long for nothing but your surrender. They will consume you, like they did to all before you. Come, let go, the woman beside me gasped, her eyes pleading. It's part of their trap. They promise you release but leave you as wandering souls, forever cursed. With a sudden, sharp yank, I tore my hand from the specter's grasp, propelled by a newfound resolve. I won't succumb. I screamed, each word battling against the encroaching shadows as I turned to face the door, which now felt impossibly far away. The glass shards, which had been a mere flurry of menace moments before, began to morph into something tangible. Each jagged piece reflected not only my terror but also the trapped souls seeking to escape. They glinted, taking on the appearance of faces twisted in torment, mouths opening in silent screams, begging for release. The realization knocked the breath from my lungs. Me terror was their sustenance. The more I succumbed, the more they thrived. In a surge of will, I sprinted towards the door, but as I neared, the threshold warped. The edges twisted, becoming a churning vortex of darkness that seemed alive, hungry for my despair. I reached for the handle, but my hands met cold, slick filth coating a sludgy barrier that pulsed like a living thing, slicking around my fingers. Join us. The chorus grew louder, a cacophony of blood-curdling voices intermingling, drenching the air with despair. Shadows slithered from the corners, curling against my legs as if they were serpents waiting to strangle life from my body. Frantically, I swatted at the shadows, trying to break free as the mermaid's probing smile widened, revealing more glistening teeth than should have fit within her mouth. You'll grow to love it, just like the others. Just feel the ecstasy of giving in. But the pale woman's spectral voice broke through. Concentrate on what you desire. What you truly want. Picture it. I squeezed my eyes shut, fighting against the howls rasping in my ears, conjuring images of sunlight filtering through water, laughter devoid of fear, of life untouched by darkness. I envisioned the soft caress of a summer breeze, a world thriving in light. Something shifted, the door trembling against the pressure of my yearning. I felt a flicker of fragile crack in their hold. But just as the light began to coalesce before me, darkness surged with ferocity, creeping up my legs with a vengeance. I could feel icy tendrils wrapping tighter around my waist, dragging me backward. In one last act of defiance, I launched myself forward, hurling myself against the door with all of my remaining strength. The wooden frame shuddered and groaned as if aware of the battle for my very soul. It felt like it might open, just a breath away from true freedom, and then, almost as if in retaliation, a piercing scream erupted from behind me, abruptly halting my advance. I glanced back to see the spectre, her form convulsing, faces swirling in an ocean of despair within her. No! I shouted. Fight it, but the mermaid surged forward, her expression fierce as she lunged for the spectre, claws outstretched. You cannot save them. You do not belong here. The door cracked, creating a sliver of light that beckoned me with warmth, a promise of salvation. The spectre screamed again, the sound morphing into a shrill note that jarred my bones, splitting the air with its razor-sharp agony. In that moment, I realized she was facing the true horror, a paradox between wretched depths and frail redemption. With a final push of desperation, I threw myself towards the door's opening, but as I crossed the threshold, the last thing I heard was the chilling laughter of the mermaid and the gut-wrenching wail of the pale woman succumbing to the darkness. My heart seized with dread as the final fragment of reality fell away, leaving me suspended between the worlds, neither here nor there, trapped in an unimaginable limbo. I slipped through the doorway only to find myself engulfed in utter blackness once more, the mermaid's voice lingering hauntingly, "Welcome home." As the darkness enveloped me, I gasped for breath, feeling the coldness seeping through every pore. It was a biting chill that seemed to wrap around my bones, dragging me further into the oppressive void. The absence of light left me disoriented, each direction just as non-existent as the last. It was a swamp of unknowing, and for a moment, everything was still, and yet the silence screamed, "Where am I?" I whispered into the suffocating air, my voice trembling as it faded into the black. There was no response, only the faint echo of my own trembling breath against a vacuum that stretched endlessly. My heart thrummed an erratic rhythm, an anxious metronome pushing me to move, to escape whatever nightmare lay in wait. That as I stumbled forward, I felt something brush against my ankle, something slick and sinuous. Panic ignited within me, and I recoiled, my foot colliding against the hardened ground. The sensation was both abhorrent and yet familiar, a teasing caress that sent shivers up my spine. My skin prickled with the anticipation of an unseen presence. "Who are you?" I yelled into the abyss, desperation clawing at my throat. "Show yourself." The shadows seemed to shift in response, clustering then dispersing like fog. Then, from the depths of that consuming inky nothingness, a figure materialized, a woman, her silhouette outlined by an ethereal glow, one that seemed to pulsate with an unsettling rhythm. "Welcome, lost one," she intoned, her voice hauntingly sweet yet echoing with something sinister. The glowing woman's features came into sharper focus. She bore a striking resemblance to the pale spectre I had encountered before, but her expression was one of haunting joy, eyes sparkling with malevolence. "You have been chosen. Here, in the realm of the Forsaken, your journey begins, chosen." I sputtered, fear constricting my throat. "For what?" She stepped closer, and I caught the stink of decay rolling off her, like the brine of seaweed mixed with something rusted and monstrous. "To embrace the richness of despair, to unearth the depths of your own corruption. You were destined to join us, to feel the infinite pull of the ocean's rage." As her words hung in the air, the darkness around us trembled, shadows twisting and coiling like snakes ready to strike. I felt a wave of nausea, the sensation pulling and tugging at my insides, a grotesque longing for something unspeakable. "No. I won't be a part of this," I shouted, my voice puncturing the thick curtain of shadows. Each breath was an anchor pulling me deeper into the whirlpool of the unfamiliar, every heartbeat a battle against surrender, but she merely smiled, her grin stretching wider, revealing elongated teeth dripping with dark ichor. "You already are, dear. The tie has been made. It binds your heart to the depths. All you need do is let go." As she reached out, I felt a surge of desperation, pulling me back toward the painful memory of sunlight, laughter, life unshackled by chains of despair. Behind her, darkness rippled, echoing with the cries of those who had come before me, lost souls swirling, their faces rising from the void to haunt me. "Fight! Don't listen to them." A familiar voice called from the shadows, one I had not realized I'd hoped to hear. The spectre, still bound by the forces that sought to drown her in darkness, struggled to emerge. "You must resist. The more you fear, the more they feast." In that moment, the glowing woman laughed, discordant and hollow. "You cannot save her. Join us instead. Feel the liberation." Her vortex expanded, and the sensation was intoxicating, drawing me closer to the awaiting abyss. The twisted cries of the souls inviting me to join their ranks reverberated through me, vibrating under my skin in terrifying unison. My fear transformed into a haunting melody that resonated with their lamentations, a song of ultimate surrender. I closed my eyes, forcing my mind to battle against the truths they projected, fighting for every flickering memory of light, warmth, and hope. But as I stood poised on the brink of that decision, the air around me thickened, becoming a sentient Forcean entity hungering for my surrender. "I can't," I gasped into the oppressive fog, grappling for clarity in the storm of shadows consuming me. "I want," but doubt began to etch into my resolve, gnawing at the edges of my mind, and the abyss whispered sweet nothings that echoed of a life without struggle, a life of surrender. Just as my thoughts spiraled, another voice cut through, sharp, crystalline, a sound reminiscent of the sea crashing against rocks. It cracked the encroaching darkness, pulling me nearer to consciousness. "Sovereign of the depths seeks your surrender, but it doesn't have to end like this." The specter's eyes burned with determination, and in a flash, images poured through my mind of freedom, of life unbound by fear. With an eruption of vigor, I screamed, "I choose my own fate." My voice stirred the veil of shadows, giving way to a crack of fierce light and illumination that blazed from within me, defying the dark. "Fool!" the glowing woman shrieked. "You'll never escape. This is your prison, In that flicker of defiance, the shadows recoiled, but I felt the pressure of something vast, malevolent, rising against me, threatening to pull everything back into the depths. I stood my ground, the visceral battle for my soul reaching a feverish crescendo, but then, as everything started crumbling around me, the mermaid's laughter pierced through the chaos, resonating with malice. "You've chosen the path of anguish, sweet child. So be it." Suddenly, the ground beneath me cracked open, revealing a chasm of writhing darkness eager to ensure that no light could escape. As the shadows rushed to engulf me once more, I felt a familiar tug at my ankle, the chilling caress dragging me down into an unfathomable abyss, a new horror beckoning with the promise of eternal night, either to succumb to the depths or to fight until the last breath. And just as I felt myself give in, everything vanished. I was suspended in a moment, frozen in time, a heartbeat away from another fate entirely, lost in an ocean transformed by a monstrous storm of darkness and rage, the last thought vibrating through my mind being the echoes of countless tortured souls surrounding me. "Join us." The swirling void gripped me tighter, its tendrils whispering promises of oblivion and freedom, yet my instinct clawed for survival. In that ephemeral moment, the cacophony of tortured souls morphed into an inhuman symphony, an amalgamation of shrieks and wails blending seamlessly with the roaring tide. My heart thundered in my chest, defiantly beating against the weight of desolation pressing down upon me. Air, I needed air. My lungs burned, and my legs flailed against the ethereal grasp that enshrouded me. The chill seeped deeper, submerging me in deathly waters where nothing remained but shadows and the haunting melodies of lost hope. I squeezed my eyes shut, fighting to latch onto the fading echoes of sunlit laughter, as they became the lifebuoy tethering me to sanity. Suddenly, the mermaid's laughter filled the desolation, cascading through the darkness like shards of ice crashing into the tumultuous sea. "You think you can escape? In this realm, you belong to me." Her voice curled around me, a siren's song promising both ecstasy and torment, and with it came the sensation of something ancient stirring within the shadows, something formidable and eldritch. It dawned on me then that the depths were not merely a prison, they were alive, pulsating with a ferocity that emboldened the dark. As the tendrils of despair intensified, I could feel the presence of something lurking beneath, something profoundly sinister beneath the surface, watching and waiting. "Fight." The specter's voice urged through the chaos, still echoing within my head. "Remember who you are." I grasped onto that command, pushing through the clutches of monstrous despair, forcing my limbs to move, twisting and turning against the grasping shadows. Each thump of my heart carved a path on the surface, allowing sunlight's forgotten warmth to flicker like distant memories. "Arise." I roared into the abyss, rallying the remnants of strength I had left. "I will not be one of you." With that, an explosion of radiance erupted from my core, sending waves of light crashing outward. The shadows recoiled with a screeching howl, their grotesque forms blurring, losing coherence within the searing brightness. For a moment, I glimpsed their true nature, twisted faces of former victims, fingers reaching out, mouths gaping in silent screams before the light surged, scattering the darkness in violent hues, but the mermaid remained unfazed, undeterred by my flickering valor. "You think a spark of defiance can drown the abyss? It stirs only to consume." Her smooth skin glittered with the souls of the drowned, reflected like a curse, and for a heartbeat too long, I felt the familiar pull of fear tethering me to despair. "Awaken, child." I heard the spectre summon once more, cutting through the depths like a dagger. "The ocean awaits, but you must choose to rise. Say your name. Claim your life." I blinked through the remnants of light dancing in the deep, straining against the oppressive weight that sought to ensnare me in its embrace. I am the words danced on the edge of my conscience, teetering between the waking world and this dreadful realm, a very real fight for existence. That I am silence. The mermaid bellowed, the anger radiating from her causing the shadows to tremble. From the darkness surrounding us, writhing figures coalesced, each one a grotesque apparition drawn forth by her fury, echoing with despair more profound than the anguish I had felt before. "Join us now, and together we will know the secrets of the abyss, child." She beckoned, extending her long, slender fingers, each movement punctuated with a sinuous grace that sickened me. Gripped with terror yet fueled by something greater, a survival instinct ignited by the belief in light and life, I yelled from the bottom of my soul, "I am Cassandra." And I choose to live. As those words broke free, my body ignited, a conduit of vitality sparked in the choking void, resonating waves rippled outward, and the darkness screamed in protest. The ground beneath me buckled, the shadows contorting violently, spinning away from the power surging within me. Cassandra. The spectre gasped, a hint of pride weaving through her desperate plea. But the reality shifted again, as the abyss quaked, not merely a response to my invocation but as if an ancient leviathan was awakening. Pulses of darkness coiled back to me, forming something more menacing amidst the chaos, a monstrous amalgamation of the souls once lost, twisted, and enmeshed into a colossal being. Hear me, Cassandra, beloved of the depths, it growled, the voice a cacophonous blend of hundreds, voices filled with unresolved rage and desperate longing. And as the nightmare materialized, I felt the frigid breath of an all-consuming darkness wash over me, cold as the grave. You will join us. Eventually, even the light must succumb to the darkness that I stood at the precipice, the chasm expanding around me, drowning me in an eternal abyss where despair reigned. As the grotesque form surged closer, its many mouths twisted into a smile that promised both agony and ecstatic surrender, I stumbled backward into the unknown, plummeting toward an unyielding and unimaginable horror, and in that moment, the swirling darkness coalesced into a definitive shape, and everything shattered, leaving me suspended in a past I could never possess again, the echoes of their laughter morphing into anguished cries, a reminder of doom-weaving destiny. Join us, the chorus wailed as I fell deeper into their awaiting grasp. When I hit the water, it was not the icy embrace I had expected. Instead, it was as if I had plunged into liquid shadows, engulfing me whole with an overwhelming sense of despair. I twisted and turned, gasping for air that eluded my grasp, the feel of countless spectral hands clutching at my limbs, pulling me into their depths. The whispers intensified around me, voices overlapping and merging until they became an indistinguishable howl of rage and sorrow. You wretched child! You denied our claim! They screeched, and I fought against the turbulent tide, flailing in panic while surrendering to the inevitability of my fate. Just as my strength began to wane, a sharp jolt electrified the water around me, illuminating the encroaching phantoms with a fleeting glimpse of their sorrowful visages, each one trapped in agony, eyes wide with the haunting knowledge of their own doom. I felt a stirring, some long-buried memory igniting as I recalled the warm sunshine that kissed my skin back on the shore. The memories began to surge, each heartbeat bringing forth the faces of those I had loved, the laughter of my family penetrating the miasma of despair. They reached through the abyss, a lifeline that pulled me closer to clarity. Yet with every attempt to solidify a grip on those memories, the grotesque creature loomed larger, charging towards me with renewed ferocity. You cannot escape what you are. It roared, and the violent ripples echoed around me, threatening to drown the fading warmth of my recollections. The tortured souls at its command lunged, grasping for me with bony fingers slicked in despair, their efforts a cruel reminder that I was not the only one fighting for breath in this accursed sea. With panic igniting a fire in my chest, I summoned the courage that had saved me once before and twisted through the inky water. I will not belong to you! I screamed, forcing the sound out into the void, spitting it like a curse. Each word sent ripples through the dark, blinding flashes illuminating the terror of my captors, revealing their forms, twisted, deformed replicas of once beautiful souls, mouths stretched into silent screams. The shadow creature loomed ever closer, anger rolling off of it in palpable waves filled with the bitterness of those lost. The flickering memories of sunshine dimmed as the darkness thickened, engulfing me with each desperate stroke. Yet in my fighting spirit, I caught a glimpse of the mermaid, her spectral visage haunting yet hypnotic as she circled my descent, a predator drawn by my rebellion. Her laughter twinkled with malice, sonorous and seductive, enticing me to surrender. Do not fight, dear Cassandra. Acceptance is freedom. Embrace the abyss. With her voice curling around me, I felt the encroaching weight of inevitability, the darkness a cozy blanket promising relief from the struggle. My thoughts began to obscure, spinning into confusion as I remembered my worst fears lying beneath the surface. Suddenly, like a dam bursting, the memories came flooding back, the laughter juxtaposed against the cries. I recalled the smile of my mother, her warmth spreading through me like light cutting through the fog. And with it, a burst of anger rose against the specters who tormented me. No! I refuse to let you take my heart. With that, I grasped the remnants of my strength, elongating my hand toward the abyss. I choose my humanity. I choose my memories. The darkness hissed, recoiling from the sudden surge of defiance blooming in my core. In that moment, I realized the truth that surged through the stagnant air. It was not merely a battle for survival. It was an awakening, tapping into the dreams of those who once believed in me, countless souls entwined with mine, lending their voices to the invisible buoy tethering me to hope. Yet as I surged, claws of guilt and confusion clung to my ankles, dragging me back toward the horrors of the abyss. The vision of my mother faded gradually into the whispering maw of the dark beast, whose shadowy form transformed with a mockery of her likeness, grinning down at me with baleful delight. You wish for escape, little girl? It sneered, as the undercurrent of countless souls churned around me, forming an unholy cyclone threatening to claim me. But your fate is entwined with theirs. Join us all. With each pulse from its many mouths, the force tugged my essence, demanding allegiance to despair. I desperately clawed for altitude, for anything that might rise above the tide and the monstrous screams of the hungry shadows. The darkness now enveloped me, and its appetite felt insatiable, just as the air of the outside world brushed against my skin one last time. With a ghostly whisper, the beast lunged forward, engulfing me completely. It was an embrace far worse than drowning. Surrender! It roared, as I was pulled into the folds of the unknown, and in that inevitable moment, the last flicker of light faded from my vision, only to be replaced by the cacophony of anguished souls from within, echoing like a fractured heartbeat as the world around me dissolved into a vortex of shadows and screams. I lay there, suspended in paralyzing fear, blossoming dread welling in my heart. The whispers grew louder, a dissonance of desperation that echoed through the depths of my being. You are one of us now, forever. But in the darkness, a tiny flicker remained, an unsettling sensation that something in me was still fighting to break free. What is left of you, Cassandra? Came the echo of the mermaid's laughter, echoing around me like a cruel jest, and as I fell deeper, I became aware of another presence, something lurking even in this entanglement, something coherent, palpable, rising against the tide of despair, a surge of insatiable hunger that was not my own. In that instant, I realized the merging had only just begun. The depths whispered my name, and somewhere, deep in that blackened pitch, something monstrous awaited me. Your true form shall surface, soon enough. The pulse of darkness throbbed around me, echoing through the depths, an unspeakable rhythm entwined with fear and madness. It tempted my thoughts into an abyss where logic splintered like shattered glass, colors swirled into obscured emotions, and time lost all meaning. I tumbled deeper, surrendering to the seductive disarray as memories warped, shifting into something monstrous. Do you still call yourself human? The mermaid's voice crooned, sinuously sliding through the shadows like a serpent. It slithered into my mind, coiling around the remnants of my fears, teasing apart the fabric of who I once was. You are mine now. Join us, embrace the hunger. I struggled to grasp the edges of my fading soul, grounding myself against the onslaught of her promise. I fought against the intoxicating pull of the darkness, but with every heartbeat, I sensed shadows merging within me, a cacophony of whispers clawing for attention. Images surfaced me, laughter echoing against walls of home that once embraced me, the scent of lilacs in spring swirled to mix with memories of the sea that now became a sinister undertow. I envisioned my father, his embrace a weight of safety that melted like ice. Yet, within that warmth, a storm brewed. The fabric of my memories tore, revealing their twisted threads fraying into despair. Join the chorus. Sing with us. The tortured souls shrieked, an orchestra of lament, each straining cry feeding into the bottomless pit of sorrow entwined around me. Then, as chaos spun its net tighter, I felt a shift, a flicker unlike any I'd felt before, a sudden clarity. Was it rage? Defiance? A manifestation of survival? Compelled by its yearning, I grasped onto it, letting it become my weapon against the seductive darkness that promised oblivion. But it was not enough. Their voices converged like a tidal wave, threatening to obliterate my essence completely. Suddenly, a ghastly realization struck me. Wasn't alone in this terror. I sensed another consciousness sliding beneath the surface, a presence thrumming with a terrifying duality. It rippled through the gloom, a second heartbeat in sync with mine, teasing apart the realization of its existence. "Find me," it whispered, wavering gently amidst the thrumming darkness, evoking an unsettling familiarity that drew me further down. "Find your purpose, loose your chains, who are you?" I gasped into the void, the question dissolving among the phantom cries echoing all around me. The temperature dropped sharply, the darkness coiled tighter, shadows enfolding me in a chilling embrace. Through the suffocating weight of despair, I sensed something monstrous. It was not the shadow creature that had held me, but another entity, an echo of anguish and longing that resonated deep within my very core. "You thought you could escape, but the darkness always wins, Cassandra," it coiled around my heart, its voice darkly soothing. "It is your true nature, embrace it." Through my bewilderment, desperation ignited like a flare in the murky depths. "No. I won't lose myself," as I refuted the uncanny call, a sinister laughter erupted from the abyss, cascading into a maddening symphony of delight. It felt like a thrumming heart, alive, swallowing the cries of the damned, each word pounding against my skull. "You cannot resist." A blinding flash pierced through the depths, illuminating swirling shadows for a heartbeat. I glimpsed a mass of anguished faces rising from the black water, extending hands blotched in despair toward me. Horrifically, they mirrored my own features, contorted in agony, eyes wide with a knowing that sent ripples of realization washing over me. "They were lost before you, Cassandra. They yearned to claim you, to become whole again," the voice murmured, its caress insidious and inviting. "You are all that remains of them, all the tether that holds them to this world. Join us in the shadow, let them feed from you." The sensation of yearning wove through me, pulling at my essence. 1,000 lifetimes of hearts and dreams turned to rot, each one a thread of despair, stitching me into their anguished tapestry. Suddenly, amidst the grotesque harmony of misery, the mermaid appeared again, her smile a mask of cruel elegance, teasing the edges of a promise unfulfilled. "Embrace your rebirth, Cassandra. Unleash the darkness that lies buried within. Be more than a fleeting spark." With my flesh tingling under their ghost's oil-slicked touch, the weight of despair became unbearable, and I gasped, drawing breath that tasted of fear and salt water. I was sinking, drowning, and yet, with an instinctive force I did not understand, I resisted. The sensation surged within me, a bubbling wave of defiance. I roared with an intensity one didn't know I possessed, and the world erupted in blinding darkness once again, a vortex of chaos swirling around me. "Foolish girl." The creature's voice loudened, sinister echoes drowning out my defiance. "You think there's an escape? You will join Yuzzle of you," but the flicker of life persisted, igniting flames of rebellion behind my ribcage, transcending the fears that threatened to devour me. Finally, I felt the dual heartbeat merge with my own, a connection pulling me deeper, whispering secrets of the abyss, revealing truths of the darkness that loomed ahead. A sudden rush of water surged upward, dragging me toward its tumultuous surface. I wanted escape. But the presence, whatever it was, gripped tighter. "You must know, embrace me. Your true self will awaken," and it was then, as the water churned, that the darkness unveiled what lay beneath, a shape shrouded in shadows, pulling with a vice-like grip, stretching toward me, revealing serrated jaws and gleaming eyes that hungered for something eternally more sinister. "Feed me!" it screeched, as I was swept into its maw, just as a blinding light flickered above the surface. In that instant of white-hot realization, the monster's ancient gaze locked with mine, and a chilling thought traversed through my mind: it wasn't my escape it sought, but something immensely darker. As I collided with the somber depth, the water filled with frantic screams, and I felt a searing pain rip through me. A true horror had awakened from within. And somewhere in that blinding moment, I knew that whatever awaited on the other side was a fate worse than death. The world erupted into a tempest of agony as the darkness enveloped me, and with it came an overwhelming cacophony of grief-stricken howls that reverberated in my bones. I could feel my essence thinning, pulling away like the strands of a fraying tapestry, thinning beneath the pounding waves of despair. As the beast's jaws clamped down around me, I struggled against the temptation to succumb to the madness swirling in my mind. "This is a trick!" I screamed internally, though the tormenting shadows whispered otherwise. "Fight! You must fight! Yet, as I sank deeper into the abyss, a smothering pressure weighed down upon my soul, igniting memories of those lost to the depths. Faces began to materialize amidst the blackened water, my mother's smile as she tucked me into bed, the look of terror on my father's face when he found that first, bloodied fish washed up on the shore. Their familiar features melted into grotesque parodies as their mouths twisted into silent screams, longing to drag me into the scalding grasp of the sea. Remember them, the creature coiled around me, its voice shrieking through the waves like a tempest. Remember what they gave up for you. You are feast, Cassandra, embrace it. With every pulse of the creature's heart, I felt the darkness eat at my core, devouring fragments of my will and replacing them with shadows. Dread swelled through me like a tide, surging against the realization that the power of their collective despair was intoxicating. It sang to me, offering strength wrapped in the most forbidden hunger. In a moment of sheer desperation, I reached within, grappling for the flicker of life I had found moments before. The rush of rebellion coursed through me like molten fire, igniting a blistering urgency. I would not be consumed. With a fierce cry, I pulled against the crushing grip of that unimaginable entity, ripping free from its clutches. A sudden surge propelled me away, my body racing upwards through the water. The light and alluring gleam shimmering just out of reach drew me like a moth to the flame, but the shadows clawed at my heels, frantic to reclaim what was theirs. Dark tendrils spiraled around my legs, dragging me back down into the abyss. Foolish girl! You cannot escape. You belong to the depths, to the plight of your ancestors. The taste of salt and tears will be your only solace. With a burst of desperation, I flailed my arms, breaking through the weight of the both haunted water and the tormenting voices battling against my mind. Still, the shadows reached for me, thick and sentient swarming through the darkness. Yet, even as I clawed toward the surface, gasping for air, I was drawn by another force, a small flicker of hope flickering behind my eyes, a memory of freedom. Distracted, I felt once more that presence, the heartbeat that resonated with mine. You do not belong with them, you belong with me. It urged softly, wrapping itself around my soul like a warm embrace. The sensation held a promise, a chance to become something other than what the darkness wished to make of me, a flicker of the divine against the infernal. Against the pulling weight, I spiraled into a vortex of confusion, battling between the horrifying allure of surrender and the possibility of liberation. Suddenly, the water erupted, a blinding force bursting through like stars igniting in the night. I broke free, emerging into the cold air, gasping desperately as light sliced through the madness that had clung to me. But that fleeting euphoria was short-lived. As I settled atop the waves, trembling, the beast loomed just beneath the surface, its serrated teeth peeking through the water's edge, eyes glowing with unbridled malevolence, watching me. You will return, Cassandra. Eventually, they always do. You will return, and we will finish what has begun, it hissed, diabolical delight tinged in its tone. My heart raced as I fought against the smothering blanket of dread. Struggling to catch my breath, I scanned the horizon, searching for salvation, frightened of the horror that loomed below me, beckoning me homeward. But then, a piercing cry broke through the stillness, a scream that sent shivers racing down my spine. It echoed across the vast and darkened ocean, a siren song that transcended my own fears and grasped at the fraying edges of my being. Knowing I had to face the terror, I turned back to one final glimpse of the cursed sea, only to behold something unfathomable rising from its depths. A shimmering figure glinted like silver in the moonlight, appearing to possess a beauty both haunting and grotesque. Its wide, hollow eyes caught mine, and the terrible anticipation coiled within me as I heard the sound repeated like a battering drum, "Find me, Cassandra. We will awaken the darkness." At that moment, the storm within me ignited, and I knew I was trapped not just by the horror at hand, but by the remnant of what lingered within. As the figure emerged completely from the sea, revealing itself as another reflection of my own form, I was faced with an unimaginable truth: that surrender was not just a choice, but my inevitable fate. As the grotesque doppelganger smiled, a haunting clamor erupted from the ocean's depths, drowning out all sense of reason. Choose. You can either stay and join us, or be dragged back into darkness. And as the call of the abyss intensified, my mind spiraled once more, unraveling completely, leaving an opening violently at my core as the hollow laughter of the shadows echoed through my soul, resonating with a final chilling promise: you are never really alone, Cassandra, you'll always have us. The figure that emerged from the depths, radiant and grotesque, mirrored my own features but twisted into a sinister semblance of femininity. Its skin gleamed eerily in the moonlight, dripping with the brine of the ocean, leaving a trail of phantom reflections that writhed as if alive. I felt the pull of recognition so emanating from this twisted incarnation, almost as if it sought to claim a piece of my very essence. You were always meant for this, Cassandra, it sang, its voice a hypnotic blend of temptation and terror. We are the same, you and I, creations born of sorrow, cursed to dwell between the worlds. Together, we can reign over them. The shadows around us writhed in approval, swelling like a tide eager to engulf the land that as if summoned by her words. A cacophony surged from the depths. Lost souls, those who had met their grim fates beneath the waves, began to rise around us. Their faces twisted in anguish, mouths agape in silent screams that echoed through the air, resonating deep within my chest. I staggered back, gripping my head as the sound washed over me, the very essence of their suffering clawing through the facade of who I thought I was. Embrace their pain. Let it fuel you. My doppelganger urged, her glowing eyes piercing into the remnants of my willpower. Your parents strived and suffered for a world that abandoned them. What do you owe to the land that birthed your misery? Everything you were taught is a lie, a thin veil brushing over the truth. Come with me, together, we can unearth the darkness lying beneath. The sea began to churn violently, waves crashing with a menacing fervor, and the anguished spirits danced in a frenzied torrent around us as if sensing the moment of reckoning. I felt their sorrow seep into my veins, mingling with the pulse of fear, flaring into an insatiable rage. Then, from beneath the surface, a monstrous shadow unfurled, vast and grotesque, the true form of the beast that had haunted me. It rose like a jagged mountain from the depths, carrying the stench of decay and despair. Eyes, countless and unblinking, stared down at me, and I could feel its hunger, a primal need that vibrated through the very air I breathed. You cannot escape us, Cassandra. The beast thundered, the resonance splitting the world. Our hunger is eternal, and you. It paused, its multitude of eyes glimmering wickedly. You are our vessel, our chosen one. Beneath the whirlpool of chaos, I felt fear turn to desperation, and as my doppelganger drew closer, her hand stretched forth, compelling and inviting. A shard of longing pierced through the haze, the promise of power, of asserting dominion over my own torment. Would joining her mean I could finally silence the gnawing pain of loss and betrayal? No. I gasped, shaking my head violently as the screams of the lost intensified, clawing at my sanity as I confronted the abyss that fascinated and terrified me. I won't be one of you, then you will drown, the undead chorus shrieked as they coalesced, trying to envelop me in a crushing embrace. I felt the water pull with an unearthly strength, dragging me downward towards the maw of the beast, while my doppelganger laughed a haunting melody that echoed like wind through the hollow bones of the dead. With a force born of desperation, I swirled around with outstretched arms, trying to ward off the grasping hands of the spirits, the surging pull of the dark water, the ominous gaze of the beast beckoning me home to oblivion. But something primal surged within me, igniting a fire I had believed extinguished. No! I screamed, the word reverberating like a cannon blast. Images of my parents, their smiles contrasting against the despair engulfing me, flooded my mind like a torrential rain. Clinging desperately to that flicker of humanity, I felt my heart beat in furious defiance. I will find another way. I refuse to be a vessel for your darkness. In that moment, I lunged for the gleaming figure, determination warring with fear, grabbing onto its outstretched hand as I screamed defiantly, I choose to forge my own path. As her grip tightened, I expected her to overpower me, to pull me down into the depths, but shock coursed through me when we became intertwined, two paths converging into a tempest of unimaginable chaos. The shadows twisted violently, and the very waters beneath us roared in protest. With a thunderous crash, the ocean exploded around us, casting a maelstrom of light and terror that sent shockwaves through the fabric of reality. And as we spiraled into the maelstrom dueling forces of light and darkness, I glimpsed something I never anticipated, a rift, a tear through which a blinding radiance pulsed. But just as my fingers brushed the warmth of that light, I felt a searing burn slice through the currents, and the world spiraled out of control. "You will never escape," the beast howled as everything faded into a cacophony of wails and darkness. In the chaos of swirling shadows, I realized, in horror, that one face among them, hollow and familiar, was that of my mother, rising from the depths with a wretched smile, eyes alight with a dreadful knowing, beckoning me with her outstretched hand. "Join us, Cassandra," she whispered, echoing the call of my own heart's treachery, just as I spiraled into the maelstrom of despair, feeling the fracture of everything I had tried to hold together, and in that pivotal moment, darkness surged forth, binding me to a fate that felt both inevitable and incomprehensibly mine. The weight of my choice pressed down, forging paths that were not merely about the depths of the ocean but the very depths of one's soul. The last thing I heard was the beast's whisper before silence engulfed me completely, "Welcome home." The darkness, once so oppressive, began to dissolve, and I awoke not in some ethereal paradise, but on the very shore I had once known. The air stung my lungs, salty and familiar, washing away the remnants of the torment I had endured. I staggered to my feet, a haunting calm settling over the scene before me. The twilight sky stretched overhead, painting the world in brilliant oranges and deep blues, misleading me into believing I had escaped the horrors below, but as I breathed in the cool air, I felt the weight of something much heavier lurking beneath the surface of that blissful illusion. I gripped my hair, desperately trying to gather my thoughts, yet their bite crawled alongside whispers of fate that coiled around my mind. I could almost hear their tragic lament, the ocean's tortured souls echoing like a harrowing melody just beyond the gentle lapping of the waves. That I turned toward the sea, recalling the fierce light that had beckoned to me during my desperate plunge from consciousness. A shiver went down my spine as I fought to dismiss the memory, yet, as the tide pulled back, I could see it glimmering figures of the damned rising from beneath the surface, their faces twisted into grotesque parodies of joy as they clawed at the edges of existence, mere specters of the life they had lost. "Cassandra," they whispered, and for a terrible moment, I thought I perceived among them the form of my mother beckoning me to return, inviting me into the abyss from which I had grown so weary of fleeing. "Join us." They beckoned, their voices melodic yet soaked in grief, pulling at the very fibers of my being. Panic ignited in my chest, swallowing me whole. I turned away from the water, struggling to shake the shadows wrapping around me, but as I faced the shore it was not solace I found amongst the fading day, it was the truth of consequence skimming closer, a heavier weight settling on my heart than any that the depths had allowed to cling. And then it happened that I felt the cold caress of tendrils wrapping around my ankles like they had during my last moments in the depths. I screamed, choking on the air, dread curling deep within, and it was in that breath that I finally understood. The horrors of my descent into the ocean were not an ending, they were merely a transition, a rebirthing into the realm of the cursed deep. As I screamed again, desperate for escape, the shadows reached closer, their gnashing laughter swelling in the mismatched tempo of the waves crashing around me. Then a thought struck, I could not stop them, but neither would I yield. With every ounce of vanishing valor, I bolted toward the dark waves, fully knowing I had become one of them, an eternal cycle of despair yet tinged with the remnants of my humanity. Yes, I would dare to claim my place among the souls beneath, ready to embrace their wretchedness, knowing they would find harmony in the orchestrated chaos we might create together. But as I plunged back into the murky abyss, something shifted in the depths of darkness I thought I recognized, an echo of that ancient beast thrumming to life within my very core. The call of the Leviathan surged, and I surrendered a laugh, a tear-rich lament consuming my very being as I sank further. "Join us." Their voices surrounded me, a haunting promise now tinged with something more a sinister delight, a whisper of unbridled liberation from the constraints of the surface world. And I let the shadows devour me as the laughter of the damned enveloped, now fully aware, I was not merely a vessel, I was the harbinger of what dwelled within. My choice, my fate, had always been intertwined with theirs, a dark harmony playing to the rhythm of eternity. In that moment, as claws of darkness embraced me, I realized with profound clarity the monsters lurking within the depths had never truly left. I was home again, forever bathed in the shimmering glow of the cursed ocean, prepared to join the chorus of the lost, knowing the truth I now bore. Our laughter echoed through the shadows, dissonant and soul-shaking, vibrating with life as the ocean churned with our cries. And somewhere, the last lingering fragments of my humanity faded, subsumed beneath the waves, leaving only the chilling reminder that some doors, once opened, could never truly close, not even the bright blue ones on the shore.